Well, welcome. My name is Ramona Fisher. I'm the religion teacher at Canterbury School, and we welcome you to the multi-faith event, How Good Must I Be? This multi-faith event is the fifth multi-faith event that Canterbury School has had, and these events have come out of the mission statement that the Haven Interfaith Parent Group has developed. And that mission statement is in your program, and I'd like you to open to where it is, and I'm going to read it to you. The Haven Interfaith Parents support the mission of Canterbury School and encourage an understanding and appreciation of all beliefs and faiths with the goal of promoting peace in our community. While at a conference of January of 2011 in New Orleans, I was talking about the work that I was doing at Canterbury School around the interfaith efforts in Fort Wayne and at our school. And while I was there, the suggestion was made to change the wording from interfaith to multi-faith. And when I came back, I've been doing some research on this idea of what is multi-faith and how is that different from interfaith. And this past January, I changed the name, and this is the first multi-faith event. The previous events were all interfaith events. And I want to explain to you why I made that change. I came across an article written by Rick Love. He is the president of Peace Catalyst International, and he had 3 points that really resonated with me. The first one is that multi-faith dialogue is based on common ethics and the common good rather than the common theology. And I have found this to be true at our events, that we have discovered so many common ethics among all the faiths, even though our theologies have been different. The second point that he made was that multi-faith dialogue expands the conversation to conservatives. In all faiths, it's the conservative population of the faith that has been reluctant to join interfaith dialogues. And the reason for that is there's a fear that they're going to have to compromise their faith in order to join that dialogue. And what multi-faith dialogue ensures is that people can be a part of a conversation and a dialogue without having to compromise. And that's what we want from these events. We want tonight all of the speakers to be able to speak honestly and truthfully and not feel like in any way they need to compromise to be part of this dialogue. And the third point that he made was that it allows for theological exclusivism while promoting social inclusivism. And I have discovered that these events, even though we will disagree theologically on some issues, that we will leave here being excited to be peacemakers in our communities. When I first started this interfaith work several years ago, 5 or 6 years ago now, I had an interest meeting of parents who I thought might be interested in being involved in interfaith work. Now, as a follower of Jesus, my faith is incredibly important to me. And all the people that I asked to be in this first group, I knew their faith was incredibly important to them. That's why I invited them. My hope was that the group would come together and they'd be willing to do some things that I knew were going to be very difficult. I would, first of all, hope that they'd be willing to discover what we had in common. And that can be fairly easy. But then I also wanted them to have the ability to discuss our differences in a civil manner. And that can be more difficult. And then finally, I wanted them to be able to be willing to be peacemakers, not only here at our school, but as they left our community. And none of this is an easy task. But this group all decided that they wanted to be a part of the group. We met once a month for 3 years. We wrote ground rules together, which allowed us to find a common ground. Also allowed us to talk about our differences. And over 3 years, each person in the group, their faith was deepened and strengthened, and we became friends, and we were doing the work of multi-faith dialogue. Understanding the meaning of words is really important, like the words interfaith and multi-faith. And during the dialogues with my friends, I discovered the importance of knowing the meaning of words. There would be oftentimes we would be having a dialogue and we'd be using the same word, and I knew that the meaning of the word was different. And there were times where we would stop and make sure we were clear about the words, but I need to be honest with you and say there were often times that I did not do that. And we just continued on with the dialogue. And I knew when we were not clear about words that true understanding hadn't occurred. It is very difficult to have a true dialogue, and it takes time and effort to do that. It takes time and effort to be a peacemaker. It takes time and effort to understand words. But with the mission to promote peace, this evening's event is about a dialogue. It's not about a debate or even a discussion. I recently heard somebody say about dialogue, it is like listening as if your life depended on it. You need to know everything that you are hearing as if you need to survive. Now that is intense listening. And that is our hope for these events. I know when I have truly listened to other people, they're more apt to listen to me. This is the basis for all relationships. And for us to understand each other, we must listen to each other. There's a passage in the Bible that I use for myself that tells me how to dialogue. It's 1 Peter 3:15. It states, "Always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect." You see, it's in dialogue that we can be honest with each other, but we do it with gentleness and respect so that we can say what we believe. Being in dialogue says that we care about the relationship. Being in dialogue says that we are desiring peace for our community and that we want to know each other. And so this evening is intentionally designed to be a dialogue. It is not a debate and it is not a discussion, because my desire is for you also to be in multi-faith dialogues, that you will want to be a peacemaker in our community. The topic for this event is how good must I be, the consequences of my choices. This topic was chosen as another way to learn about each other. And after listening to each other this evening, we may find that we do not have a common theology. But I am convinced we will know that we have a common ethic and we want to work for the common good. About a month ago, I think now, the speakers met to determine the questions for this evening's event. And this was a wonderful dialogue where we sat and talked and refined the questions. And I was so impressed with just how they interacted with each other and their own commitment to dialogue. And I want to thank you each for that commitment already, even before the evening has started. No matter what your faith is, the question is asked, how good must I be? And we look to our faiths for that answer of what are the consequences of the choices I make. There are 5 faiths represented here this evening, and they're going to answer this question, how good must I be? Those faiths are Baha'i, Evangelical Christian, Hindu, Islam, and Judaism. So now let me introduce our speakers for the evening. On my far right, we have Dr. Muhammad Saad Ghazali, and he will be speaking from the Muslim faith this evening. Next to me, we have Dr. Kent Eilers. He will be speaking from the Evangelical Christian perspective. We have Rabbi Javier Catapan, and he will be speaking from the Jewish perspective. And next to him is Dr. Bill Smits. He will be speaking from the Baha'i perspective. And at the end is Dr. Priti Dembla, who will be speaking from the Hindu perspective. The speakers, when we met, determined the 3 questions that we will be discussing this evening. And I need to tell you before we talk about the questions that we decided for each question that they will get 4 minutes to answer the question. They have given me permission to cut them off if they go too long. I do have a timekeeper up front, Dr. Akbar, who is going to be helping me kind of monitor the time to make sure we're on track. But we've kind of, I'm assuming, and they have assured me that they are keeping their comments to about 4 minutes. After the formal presentation tonight, there will be a time where we will be dialoguing with each other about the topics that have come up for this evening. So the 3 questions, and these also are in your program. The first question is, according to your faith, what constitutes wrongdoing? Question number 2, according to your faith, what are the consequences of our choices? Question number 3, according to your faith, how good must I be? How should I live my life? So the order for the speakers this evening, we're going to start with Dr. Ghazali down here, go to Dr. Dembla, Dr. Eilers, Dr. Smits, and Rabbi Catapan will be the last one, and we will go through that order throughout the evening, and each speaker will get 4 minutes.